Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the weekly show proper, the Duval Dive here, doing a lot of great things, powered by the Fans First Sports Network. I feel compelled to drop that today, as I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. But on the Student of the Game podcast, we're coming back big. We got the superlatives later tonight for the NFL awards. Might talk a little bit of Black Monday. I have Fans First Sports Network, so the Steel Curtain Network's Jeff Hartman talking playoffs. I have Candy Waller talking playoffs. But enough about all that with the student of the game. This is the Duval Dive. We're here to talk about stuff Jaguars. And hey, listen, you might have heard the Jags did some stuff on Black Monday. We're going to talk about that here. Obviously, Travis and I had the emergency episode about the Doug Peterson firing. Make sure you check that out on either the Duval Dive podcast or the Duval Dive YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Get notified when we go live to bring you the action here that it is. But listen, the big news, the bigger surprise, Trent Baalke kept. We talk about that silliness, and there's a lot of conversation surrounding things. We have candidates for the coaching search actually announced. Are the Jags still using a search firm or not to do the coaching campaign, the coaching hunt? All of that among the conversations we talk about, but enough about what we're going to do. Let me bring the guy that's going to help me do it. I know him as my personal champion, Mr. Travis D Holmes, BigCatCountry. What's going on with you, fam?
Living a dream, bro. Living a dream. I am one step closer to being a normal person right now. I have completed my screaming into the void after the Shad Khan Trent Baalke press conference. So that's where we are, bro.
Hey, the national media is not done either. Do you have any idea how many people we've heard screaming into the void? Not just you, over and above you. I mean, you, a member of the Duval Devout proper, the Jacksonville Jaguar fan base, gets its whole thing. Yeah, it's a piece there too. Robert comes in off the bat too. I'm glad you brought this up because it was going to come up. Well, Ben Johnson is interviewing with the Jags for all the networks saying he wouldn't. Yeah, I found it a little suspicious that he hadn't been scheduled yet, but apparently he's going to. But let's get back on track. Always got to give shouts to Robert for jumping in. Like, I feel like 8 times out of 10, he's the first commenter.
We will touch on Ben interviewing with the Jazz and what that could mean and what it also may not mean, and that's going to be an interesting conversation too.
And listen, today we paid tribute to somebody who is absolutely amazing regarding this Jacksonville Jaguar search. And I don't mean Trent Baalke or Shad Khan. Of course, I refer to the great one herself, Mia O'Brien 1010XL, coming out swinging with haymakers. Because you and I talked about it on the Sunday live reaction show, Travis, about the retention of Trent Baalke and it causing the Byron Leftwich situation, who, by the way, interviewed with the Patriots. Hey, maybe it's a Rooney Rule interview, maybe it's not, but I find it fascinating. He'll take that interview, but he wouldn't with Trent Baalke, the volumes that shouts. Well,
He then later comes out and says that report was not true, and I've had some arguments with a few people in the media and a few people I will say
it's lying.
In the NFL field. We'll just say it in that way. And no one's really on the same page as far as what that could have been, because I'm of the personal opinion that he just wants to get back into NFL coaching and he needs to distance himself away from that coaching search.
It's the lying season.
It's peak lying season, and I say this all the time. Off season is lying season, so I don't know how to feel about any of that.
Well, now, and we got to make sure we can be careful because you and I are saying lying, it sounds like lying. Postseason is lying season currently, Detroit fans. We're saying lying, got that hard G in there, right? So anyway, speaking of the great Mia O'Brien, she sent this clip, which is going absolutely nuts throughout the social media, about Shad Khan addressing if a coach wants to correct something in the front office. Please, by the way, observe the work of art. That is the question. And then let's hear the answer too, because this is something we're definitely going to talk about throughout the show tonight.
Hi, Trent and Shad. Thanks so much for doing this. I'd actually like to go back to John's first question, Shad, back to you. I know you noted that if this head coaching candidate was to say, hey, I think the medical needs to be reevaluated, the health and wellness, if they were to say, I would like to reevaluate the front office and the general manager, what would your response be?
My response would be, how would you improve it? And then if it is credible, you want to do it, okay? So how does the structure work? I mean, I just want to make sure that this isn't about ego or power or something more sinister, quite frankly. And there have been some of those elements that I've found, in my experience in the NFL. I mean, if it's a legit effort to get better, then everything, should be on the table.
Hi, Trent.
What? Wow. So first of all, if I need a moving crew to account for everything to unpack there. Everybody seems to universally, oh gosh, you already know where I'm going with this, Travis, because I see your bottom lip. You got that. Don't play poker, man, because when you get worried, you make a face. Anyway, so, but the way the question's asked by, of course, the great Mia O'Brien, big fan. I don't care that I tower over her height-wise. She's thrown so many lead blocks for me to get good spots in interviews and just does a good job doing what she does. Radio everywhere, big fan. 1010XL for the win. Your boy Gus Logue works with her a lot. We'll leave it at that. Big Cat Country. So, and a lot of people are interpreting that as he would be okay with cutting bait with Trent Baalke if a coach were to actually request it.
Right.
Travis, I saw your tweet. Listening to this again, that's not what I hear. Tell me what you're thinking, bud.
Right. And I think if I wasn't the first, I was one of the first that said this initially because everyone seemed to be on board with. He said he will replace Trent. He didn't say that. That's not what I heard. And I listened to it a few times. I heard if there is someone who is willing to come into this organization and show me that there is an issue within our structure, which to me is our hierarchy, the way that we do things, the how things are done, not who's doing them, then I am open to saying that we can reevaluate how this thing is going to go. Because he used a lot of those same words, reevaluate, structure. Like he said some of these key words. So if you disagree, again, go back to it and listen to his actual words. Because again, that was the fourth time he was asked that within this press conference. He had to be pushed, pulled. I don't know what to call it. He had to be prodded to get that answer out of him. And even then it did feel like in his engineering brain, he was answering a different question that was specifically was being asked.
Well, I don't know a different question, but a different interpretation of it. And that's listen, as skillfully worded as the question was by Mia O'Brien, give Shad credit for getting a good answer. I felt like, especially when the humpy bumpy right there that she's talking about firing potentially, air quotes.
Well, it was a good answer from Shad. Good. But it was also, how do I say this in the right way?
I'm saying it's an intelligent answer. You don't have to call it a good answer. Good is open to interpretation. So let me get you out of that trap by correcting your words for you.
But it's not a trap in that way. It's more of an issue with me of I think Shad Khan is closer to promoting Trent Baalke to an EVP role than he is to getting Trent Baalke out the door. Like that is personally where I feel on this. Like I think he's to that level of trust in Trent and who he is as a person or who he is as far as his level of trust with him. So that's kind of why I'm like, I think he's more on board with looking at the hierarchy and seeing how that's going to operate.
Well, and yeah, first of all, I think that's a great point. What I also kind of read into it is when he talks about, see, the speech is about egos and power trips and, sinister things like that. And I've come across this in the NFL. At first, it sounds like he's trying, if you listen to it, without analysis or with a certain interpretation, it sounds like, hey, I'm not going to be bullied by somebody who's been in here this long and done this badly in the however many years he's been my GM. No. What I think he's openly referring to with sinister agendas is Urban Meyer. Straight up, no chaser. I think he's referring specifically to Urban Meyer, who came in to get a paycheck and thought he'd be able to do whatever he wanted after that first year, and then after the tank was done, get the rebuild truly started. Listen, this is me all speculating.
Though. If that's the case, it's so weird though, because his immediate response in hiring, and I mean, let's pull back the curtains. In hiring an NFL coach, Shad Khan is going to shotgun marry a general manager to a head coach, but not a general manager who this head coach reports to, No, the coach actually reports to me, the EVP, and I'm going to shotgun marry you into what we're doing. That is his words. I'm going. Now, he didn't say shotgun marriage, but I want a coach that's going to come in here and be added into what we're doing. And in my mind, that is when the screaming into the void begin, because I don't want a freaking coach.
The reason why that's happening is because Khan believes he can manage it into existence. Trent is a nice guy,
but there lies my problem.
I
don't want a freaking coach that's going to come into what you're doing, because what you're doing is 4-13. What you're doing is Urban Meyer 3-14. What you are doing is 37% winning percentage right now. So I don't need someone to come in and join what you're doing, because what you're doing, frankly, sucks. I need someone that's going to come in and show you how to do it the right way. And if that means Trent got to get out the door, and maybe you do need a true EVP, not Shad Khan playing pseudo MVP.
Pseudo MVP.
Sorry. Yes. Then we need to do that, because you don't know what it is to win, and you don't understand that you don't know enough to be successful in this.
So we'll dive deeper into that too, because a lot of what you're saying, I think, is shared out there by the Duval Devout and others. Robert comes in. The fact that Brunel said he would follow Ben to Jacksonville to help Trevor as he did golf is a bonus. Sure, if they do get Brunel to come with Ben Johnson, that'll be an interesting question. We'll address that a little bit more later, I think. So this isn't one you hear much. Shad is the man. I wonder if we have a troll in our midst.
No. I mean, Shad, in very many ways, Shad Khan is the man. And let me be clear about saying this.
Oh, Shad, you don't mean that as a prop? Like, he is the man. He is the guy at the top. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
I mean, he is the man at the top. He is the EVP. But also, Shad is a good owner in the ways that, all right, cool. He kept the team in Jacksonville. He's invested in the community. He's stayed out of the way, generally speaking. Like, in those ways, if you work in corporate America, that's what you want in life. You want somebody who's investing in you guys. You want somebody who's going to stay out your way and let you do your job and be awesome at it. Yeah. But what happens if you're not? If you're not awesome at your job, and everybody who has a job knows who I'm talking about. You got a coworker who is not good at their job, and what are they going to do? They're going to milk that sucker for as long as they can, because they're not going to fire themselves. Trent Baalke ain't going to fire himself. Only thing that's going to fire him is constant daily oversight in person. And we don't have that in our EVP, unfortunately.
So, and I think this is similar to a point that, and we've touched on it. I've heard Tony Baselli talk about it in some places with Shad. There are things that Shad does well. Like, what was it? Correct. Mad Dog Russo said, "Oh, you're going to move the team to the left." That was never real. Stop it. Yeah. I can't make fun of the national guy we used to now, because that has a whole other set of connotations on it that aren't appropriate for what we're trying to talk to here. But Mad Dog Russo, no, you're an idiot. Nobody was moving the team to London. They're not paying the taxes, you dummy. It's not happening. A-B.
Bingo.
That England piece was actually a money-making measure to help make the Jags more prominent. And I know, oh, my mother's English, says Russo. Hey, dummy, the Jags care in Britain. Are you kidding me? Even in Ireland, it's a big deal. You know how I know it's a big deal in Ireland? Because I talked to my guy Colin Cronin of the Irish NFL show. And even though he's a Broncos fan, gives me direct insight on what the fan base is feeling overseas. I'm not some dumb Yank talking about it, who should probably be talking about the Yankees more often. Yes, I'm talking about you, Mad Dog Russo. But no, none of that was a thing. Shad Khan, to your point, has built up a lot in that Jacksonville area, has gotten the local government there into building a new stadium, which, again, blows my mind.
Building a hotel right across from it.
Yeah, just the revitalization of that particular area on or around or near Jacksonville Landing and the bridge out there is something a football owner doesn't have to do, and Shad Khan's doing it. So there's that element
for multiple years to do it. I mean, he's still fighting, for the whole waterworks, the waterway area, like that. That's a legitimate point, but unfortunately his compliments start and stop where Mark Lamping is involved. On the business side, on the athletic side, the Trent Baalke side of things, that division of football will say, that's where we got problems. And that's why we are here today at this funeral, everyone. It is in relation to the football operations side of things. That's what we need to process. But fortunately for us, we do have a few candidates who at least did show up to, they did accept the Jaguars' invitation to interview. And I wanted to circle back to that with, Robert, you've been talking about that all day, and we said we're going to get to it, so let's get to it. You got a coaching search. You have 8 candidates that the team put out that they're requesting to interview. We've discussed a lot of them on BigCatCountry.com, also on Fans First Sports Network. Like the list is long with all the familiar faces and all the familiar names that we know of. Ben Johnson, we have Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joe Brady, Todd Monken, Patrick Graham, and Robert Saleh. There's also a lot of interest as far as maybe potentially Mike Vrabel or even Cliff
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury, yeah. But there has been no official invitations as far as that's concerned, or a request for an interview from those specific individuals. So we'll see what happens there. But on that list, that's a pretty solid list. The question of the hour is that list legitimate? That's truly what it really means. Like, is that a list of guys who are truly interested in taking the job, or is that a list of guys who are posturing to gain power and or gain money in this interviewing process? Because we know this happens in NFL circles. You've seen coaches later have interviews talking about that part of the process. So that's where I'm a little bit nervous. Like, is this the Jacksonville Jaguars being positioned up against the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears, or is this legitimate interest? I don't know where to land there as far as Ben Johnson is concerned specifically.
So, and as you mentioned that, Zenith has a very interesting question here. I'll say this. Imagine having the guts or the balls to tell a billionaire how a guy he knows can do a better job than the guy across from him in the interview. Well, it's very easy. You're guarding all the doors. You're holding all the keys. If you're the coach coming into Jacksonville and they're courting you, you have the leverage. This is a franchise in disaster. If you are trying to avoid being the next Dave Cullen or Lovie Smith, I'm making Houston references, you see why. Or if you don't like that, what's the dude? Not Schottenheim. The Titans coach they just friggin' fired. Screw it.
Mike Vrabel?
Not Mike Vrabel, the one with the single year guy. Screw it. We'll go with Antonio Pierce or Gerard Mayo. Whatever. We'll go with those guys. Okay. Brian Callahan. There we go. Brian Callahan's son, rather, or Bill Callahan's son. Brian Callahan. There we go. If you don't want to end up being one of those guys, if you don't want to walk into a disaster situation where you get fired in 1 year, like with the Raiders, the Pats, the Titans, you're making those demands. You're guarding all those doors. You're holding all those keys. You have the leverage because the Jags have just as big an ability to be a disaster in year one as any of those teams did in 24.
Bingo. You have to say that. You have to be that. If you have any concept of NFL history, and I would hope you would if you're if you're positioning yourself to be an NFL coach, then you have to know there's a lot of these guys who have been one year wonders. They end up being a coach for 1 year, getting fired, and they never become an NFL coach again. Like that, you cannot put yourself in the situation to be set up for the okie doke. A la Mayo. Even like I don't know that he gets another NFL head coaching job, and it's not because he's just so bad. It's just because that's what happens when you get put up or set up with the okie doke in a bad situation organizationally, and now you just have that stink on you. We'll say. So no, they have you. If you are a multi-millionaire head coach who is interviewing with this organization, you have to be interviewing them just like they're interviewing you. You got to find that right fit.
Yeah, and so there's a couple other comments here. Zena jumps in. How do you take the comment about being lean on that part of the staff?
I agree with that. So I agree with that so much. I've been saying that for 2 years. That the Jacksonville Jaguars run themselves like a small market organization, and that's from the accounting side. I mean, that's how you have someone steal $22 million from you and you don't even notice it. Like they run themselves as a small market organization in that way. They run themselves as a small market organization as far as the executive team. When you just look at the sizes of a lot of the other organizations like the Baltimore Ravens or even the Detroit Lions, when they have like 25 and 30 guys just in that front office executive suite. And then you look at the Jaguars and they have like 11 or 12. And I'm just like, Well, they're obviously spreading the wealth and making sure that they're paying attention to the details. They're dotting those T's and crossing those I's in all these processes. And obviously, you guys are just missing something within that process. So I agree with Shad in that way. They need to build up that a lot more. And maybe that's another reason that he doesn't want to get rid of Trent, because he wants Trent to have one of those roles if they do make this thing bigger.
So, and I got to bring up something for everybody. And Lou Chesley jumps in. So if I subscribe, the troll comments gets lifted. By the way, I think this is a Titans fan that came in the other day too, listening to us. They say, no, the troll doesn't get lifted if you subscribe, because you said Trevor, or not that one. Not Trevor needs a buzz. I'm sorry, it's wrong. It's the Battlehawks are waiting for you, Trevor Lawrence. Bruh, Titans fans with Will Levis be throwing that mayonnaise at Trevor Lawrence. That's cute. I like that you here and we having fun, but stop. Okay.
Dude, our backup quarterback is better than both of their quarterbacks right now. Like Mac Jones is better than Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. Like that's insane.
Wow. I mean, they won the games. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Jacksonville won those games.
No, yeah, I'm with you.
That's what I'm saying. And this guy here, Jeff Fisher. Listen. Jeff Fisher gets a bad rap, but that is not the episode for this. Let's see. This is interesting. Saleh for defensive coach if he doesn't get a head coaching job. I love it. I think Robert Saleh did get a bad rap as a head coach. I think he did a fantastic job considering the absolute toxicity of what he was surrounding. Do I think he should coach the Jacksonville Jaguars? I do not. Would he be a great defensive coordinator? I mean, as a Niners fan, what am I going to do? Say no? Anyways, so
well, no, yeah. that is the reason. That is one of the reasons I do believe that they invited both Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator for the Raiders, and Robert Saleh, the former defensive coordinator for the former head coach for the Jets, because I believe that they're both bringing those guys in, yes, to interview for head coaching opportunities, because it's not to say they're not deserving, but also they're obviously not the favorites. Like those are also guys who have been on other teams' radars. I mean, Patrick Graham is actually interviewing for a defensive coordinator job this week. So they're obviously on other teams' radars for being some of the top defensive coordinators. And I'm just curious if the Jaguars are bringing those guys in. They kind of get that early start on maybe interviewing them for both, but also seeing if there's any comfort or, familiarity with any of these top options. Maybe they can link those guys up as defensive coordinators
to see if there's some chemistry amongst them. Who cares about the chemistry with Baalke? If you guys can get along, we're good. I'm taking shots. Zenith made a good point here too. I thought Shad was talking about Urban Meyer when he mentioned examples such as changing the medical staff and i.e. the facilities change. Well, for one, I would imagine there's facility changes. The dang stadium was busted for health code violations involving rats. So there's that.
Right. Like that was actually a positive thing, in my opinion. Like you may not like what Urban did on the football field, but the facilities change was great. That was necessary and needed. But
and the medical staff is worthy of question too, right? How many medical issues, how many injuries are we dealing with on this football team the past 2 years with both wide receivers and offensive linemen? And oh, by the way, Travis, your defensive back brethren had a lot of missing people there as well. So
it's just funny, man. But if you're a billionaire, he's like, hey, man, you made me spend all this money. Like, I don't like that.
Nobody got rich cutting checks, Travis Holmes. That's what I'm saying.
Man,
dude.
That's it.
Yeah, it's written communication skills. Love you, bro. Let's see.
But 904DZ said it. I mean, Shad isn't cheap, so he's a good owner.
We don't think Shad Khan is a cheap owner. That's not what we're saying. But we are saying there are certain elements of efficiency that he does enjoy. As I said, no one got rich cutting checks. All right. I don't think anything here is calling Shad cheap.
But do you like? I love his patience, and I hate the fact that it's linked or handcuffed to his incremental change philosophy.
Yes.
And that's the part that sucks, because again, the NFL is not an incremental change league. If you were an incremental change league, then you would still be 3 downs and what is it, 3 downs and a pile of dust. Like you would still be in wing formation trying to run the ball down the field.
They don't make helmets out of leather anymore, guys. Isn't that awesome?
We obviously have to move this offense, move this defense, move that front office along and quickly, but you can't do that if you're still, again, doing these shotgun marriages of other people with different philosophical ideals of what this football team should be. and making them just work together. Y'all can figure it out. That's how you get into corporate America, backstabbing and ankle biting. That's how that happens.
Hey, you making that realer than just football, bro? Okay.
Nah, bro, no, but Shad Khan is a billionaire who built a corporation. So he's running this thing like a corporation. But guess what? That's what you get in corporate America, though. Like if you put people together that don't agree on how to build this thing or how to operate together, you're going to get egos involved. So he's saying, I don't want egos involved, while actually putting you in the prime position to get your ego involved. It don't work. Your process is flawed.
Well, and we don't need to talk about Trent Baalke and ego right now. I'll put it that way. And 904 jumps in. A bad owner is an owner who lets players and coaches walk because he's cheap. Okay, again, let me be clear. We are not saying Shad Khan is Dean Spanos. That's not what we're doing here. Okay? We don't think he's running this group like he's running the Bengals. Clearly he's not. They paid Joe Burrow and are about ready to let T. Higgins walk and maybe extend Jamar Chase, but that's about it. Here we've cited, just in the past offseason, Travis, the signing of Trevor Lawrence, and doing it early, by the way, to where it looks like his deal, not so bad compared to other ones that are upcoming. We've had that conversation. JHA, Josh Hines Allen, Foye Luakun, Tyson Campbell, a lot of defensive guys. Walker Little, any of the receivers that were starting at one point that aren't BTJ, the tight end spot with Evan Ingram.
Right.
There are so many players that did get paid. We are not here to accuse him of being Dean Spanos. However, we have questions. That's all we're saying.
I have issues on process. And for me being a process guy, and anybody who's listened to this podcast knows, you know what I'm referencing. In everything, I am all about process. I am not about the outcome, because the outcome can be good here and can be bad. It was going to be bad more often than not if you have a bad process. So if you have a good process, you're probably going to find good NFL coaches more often than not. If you have a good process in the draft, you're probably going to hit on more picks than you miss. If you have a good process with how you're organized as far as your front office is concerned, you're going to more often than not have good outcomes. So my theory, or my perspective, my point of view on this is the Jacksonville Jaguars are a bad organization because the Jacksonville Jaguars have bad processes and they need to revamp that. So I'm not saying that Shad Khan's a bad owner because he's cheap or because he's doing things, that's just not in the best interest of Jacksonville. No, Shad Khan is simply a bad owner because he doesn't understand that he has a bad process for this sport, for this franchise. And that's my issue. As soon as he can realize that in, I don't know, less than 14 years, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars can move ahead.
Yeah, no, I get it. Zenith brings in a fairly good question here. Not fairly good. It is a good question. I'm fairly interested in what you think, Travis. Does publicly showing the requested list of head coaches show growth in the process for head coaches from like the cycle? Yeah, I like it. And I'll put the list up again. I mean, this is something that Adam Schefter's reporting. So he got the leak from somewhere. And then you also mentioned stuff about Kingsbury and somebody else. I forget who the other guy was, but
right. Some of the other rumors, basically, that were kind of coming out. But I agree with that. It shows transparency, sure. And that could be attributed to maybe Doug not wanting to share information previously, because since this is supposedly a coach-centric organization, and it has been a coach-centric organization even since Urban was here. So with that being said, that could possibly be just that Urban and Doug were not in agreement with kind of sharing these, these interview requests, whether it's for a defensive coordinator or for whatever other role, or it could just be that they know the information's out there these days, and they're just kind of just going with the new age or going with the flow because we're going to report on it. BigCatCountry.com, we have the tracker that's up, the 2025 Jaguars head coach hiring process, which includes rumors. It's there. The information's out there, so why not just get ahead of it and just kind of put it out there for the people? It does show growth, but if we're really trying to put a feather in a cap for that, we got a tough sledding, bro.
I don't know that it's a feather in the cap. I think it's just acknowledging every part of the movement. Like we have to, it's a full disclosure. And listen, Zenith is beating himself up in the comments for making typing errors. Don't stop, buddy. We appreciate the intelligent conversation here.
Hey, it's certainly late, man. Have some coffee.
Yeah, it's giving us good conversation instead of just laughs like our dude Lou up in this piece going, "Pay tank." Listen. No one's paying Tank Bigsby yet. However, the real conversation will be about Travis Etienne, and Travis and I are sure to be talking about that later in the offseason. So let that marinate for you for a while there. That's certainly something that's going to be a thing. But actually, you know what? Before I put the list down, we're coming to the end of our time here. The people on this list are what they are.
Yeah.
I know that you're in the Ben Johnson camp. Travis Holmes. I am not sure the Jags will acquire him because he seems to be a very in-demand prospect. So
that he is.
Who do you think the Jaguars truly land?
All right. So now you're asking me who they will land, not who I prefer. Is that correct?
Correct. That is exactly what just happened here.
Cool. Because Ben's not my preference. Liam Cohen is. And I know that's a coin flip, just to be clear about that. But who I think they land and who I think they land someone like Robert Saleh or Kellen Moore, personally. And I know I'm not supposed to say that because that's so pessimistic. But again, I told you I'm a process guy. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to have to fumble or bumble their way into a good head coach, sort of like they did with the Doug Peterson hiring and, fumbling that bag with Byron. That's how I believe it's going to become one of those situations where they have to circle back to a coach and kind of figure this out because I don't believe in their process. So I need to see it.
I think Big Ben Johnson gets snagged up by somebody else. I think he's and granted, I could be completely wrong. Robert, don't shoot me here for getting it wrong. I'll be happy to be wrong. It's very interesting. The guy I'm truly curious about is Joe Brady. I would be very interested to see what he does with Trevor Lawrence, since he previously made more accurate, made more potent
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Thank you. I don't know why I blinked there.
Yeah.
And I think the key to that is keep in mind when Brady came in last year, late, calling plays, doing all that stuff, the improvement the Buffalo Bills made went to beating the eventual world champions. And now the Bills are doing things. The Bills weren't supposed to make the playoffs. Now, I didn't say that. I actually picked the Bills to make the playoffs on the Student of the Game podcast. But boy, howdy, they did it with a lot more prowess than you thought. Granted, in a dilapidated and declining AFC East, certainly worth mention. But handing the Chiefs their first L, doing what they've done. Beating the Jags is no sure feat, but doing it in dominant fashion and doing that to more than one team out there is certainly worth mention. I think the most obvious victory in the playoffs this weekend, to me, appears to be the Bills over the Broncos. No disrespect to Bo Nix and all that, but that's a whole other conversation.
I think the most obvious one personally is going to be Chargers over Texans, because I think the Texans are just dreadful to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's going to be an easier one. I don't think it's the easiest one. That's a good take, because I'm not going to tell you who I'm picking. I'll be doing that on the Student of the Game podcast at 9:00 tonight. Dang. Not to mention, I'll be having. Why are you saying dang? You let me promo, dude. It's all good. And then I'll also be having on sometime before the weekend here, Big Jim Neese of Huddle Up Podcast for a Student of the Game short, because while he's a Cowboys fan, also being a Michigan homer, he's decided he likes Jim Harbaugh now. So, we're going to talk some Harbaugh and the Chargers and how they're going to beat and what the key is to beating the Texans on the Student of the Game podcast. So look out for that throughout this week. But, for me, there's a lot of that logic there with Joe Brady. That's where I'm at. If you pair him with a Robert Saleh, I think it makes a lot of sense, because two guys that have coached against each other, there's a good opportunity there for there to be a fine recipe cooked in those particular sets of circumstances.
Fortunately, I almost said unfortunately, I guess. I don't, depend on how you look at it. I do feel that Robert Saleh is weirdly the belle of this ball, and not as a head coach. It's just whoever ends up being able to to slam the book down and say, I have Robert Saleh on board to be my defensive coordinator.
Yes.
Likely they're not. That's who I want as my head coach. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, whichever of you first year, if it's Liam Cohen, if it's Kellen Moore, that still sounds like a great combination. Like, it doesn't matter. I need an offensive guy and give me that great defensive guy, and I'm probably going to be happy.
I don't think we're on the same page on Kellen Moore, and we'll leave that at that. Yeah, man, that's a fine point. Let me check if we got any more comments here. Oh yeah, some people come in. So many people want Ben Johnson. I don't think I want him anymore. Yeah, I that's kind of where I'm at for a different reason, but it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm with that. He's feeling Joe Brady as well. Robert's second choice. See, cool. Okay, he's on my page. I like it.
Okay.
See, imagine firing last year and outbidding the Chargers for Harb. Listen, okay, now. But
they would have never done it. They would have never done it.
I do know that. That
sucks.
But yeah, that's. I mean, listen, somebody's been watching Marvel What If on Disney Plus. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, if you had someone that was like aggressively passionate about this and probably understood football, you might have a chance of something crazy like that happening. But with Shad, knowing what his philosophy is on hiring and firing and how he's so protective of anyone who's ever worked for him as far as that's concerned, that was never going to happen after that 2023 season, as rough as it went. And that's the part that stings.
Loyalty can work for you. Just look at Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, okay? Yeah. But I'm always going to make that joke. I'm sorry. But whether he's Dr. Foreman or he's the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's always doing a good job. Okay. So God, please let there be a biopic so Omar Epps can play him. That's all I'm saying. That's all I want, Travis. Anyway, I don't know how we got to that, but we did. Oh, what else we got to tonight was the end of tonight's show. Once again, excellent bang up job in the comments. Excellent job by you, Travis D Holmes. Maybe people should follow your Twitter. Tell the people where you could be found, sir.
Oh yeah, you can find me on all the socials, Travis D Holmes. Twitter, Blue Sky. I mean, even old people Facebook. If you want to find a few takes, like, come on over. We got the old peppermints in the purse. Like, that's fine. BigCatCountry.com. Please check it out, man. Save it as your favorites. Like, we have the 2025 Jaguars head coach hiring process homepage, and unlike a lot of the other sites that will only report on the official activities, we actually report on the rumors also. So check it out. We're trying to tell you everything that's going on every day. Save it as your favorite. That way you can keep coming back to it, and we'll just cover it. We also have a coverage talking about each individual potential head coach option that's coming out there. I believe starting tomorrow, we should be starting this bad boy with Ben Johnson, and then you'll just have a lot of the other coaches, information kind of popping up. Check it out. We can find out a little bit more information on all of these guys and kind of pick your favorite.
Yeah, no, I might be paying attention to that there on BigCatCountry.com. But then also, of course, I am Kyle Nash to the game. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network covering the Orlando Magic, who I'll be in the building. I'll be at Kia Center Thursday night for the Timberwolves. What do you got, Travis?
The Jacksonville Jaguars just tweeted, we have requested an interview with Brian Flores for our head coaching vacancy.
Ooh.
And I'm saying,
you know how Kyle feels about that if you watch this show.
You had my attention. Oof, Lord.
See, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. Boy, howdy. I need to get in some of those press conferences, man, because I just listen. It'll be special. My first coach article when I wrote for the Dolphins Wire was Brian Flores' hiring. So that would be interesting but okay. Anyways, thanks for dropping that. But you can also find me on as well on Fans First Sports Network covering the Orlando Magic and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and my work with the Black and Gold Banneret covering UCF football and basketball. Then obviously we will be covering baseball and softball upcoming. So make sure you check all that out. blackandgoldbanneret.com, as well as the Night Shift Live podcast on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel. Man, this was a fun one tonight, Travis. This is one of the ones where I am going to be sad. I'm never anxious to end the show with you, but it feels premature to hit end stream tonight. But hey, thank you all to the Duval Devout. for coming in. Great comments once again. You guys are man, we love you guys when you jump in and talk. Yes, even you, Lou. And no, we are not. This is not a thing. Okay, we're not going to pay Parker Washington. Settle down, buddy. Okay.
Hey man, you never know. Hey man, hey, Trent Baalke's got a CYA somehow. So hey, we'll see what happens.
Oh boy, here we go. So for Travis G. Holmes, this is Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.